GCSE Maths Series. Today we're going to be looking at changing the subject of the formula, so let's get straight into it. So before we get into some questions, I want to just define exactly what changing the subject of the formula is. When we are told to make a certain variable, as in x, the subject of the formula, we need to make it so that it's alone and being applied to nothing, meaning alone, on one side of the equation. So an example of this would be y equals to x plus 2. And we want to make x the subject of the formula in this case. Okay, we can see that x is being applied by an operation of plus 2. It's being added to 2. And we want x to be alone by itself on one side of the equation. Doesn't matter on the left side or on the right side, but in this case, we'll just make it on the right side. So to do this, we do the opposite of the operation applied to reverse it to get x by itself. In this case, we're going to have to minus 2 from both sides to get y minus 2 equal to x. And that is how we reversed the operation applied to x to make x the subject of the formula. As you can see, x is on its own on one side of the equation. So that's what we mean by making something, a certain variable, the subject of the formula. So let's get straight into answering some questions about it. Make x the subject of the formula when y is equal to 3x. As you can see in this question, y is currently the subject of the formula, but we need to make x the subject of the formula, right? So we first look at x and we see that the operation applied to it is that it's being times by 3. We need to reverse this in order to make x the subject of the formula and get x by itself alone on one side of the equation. And the way we do this is to divide both sides of our equation by 3. This is going to give y over 3 is equal to x. And as you can see, x is by itself alone on one side of an equation. Looking at question number 2, it says make h the subject of the formula when we have a equals to bh. In this case, h is being times to b. To reverse this and get h by itself, we need to divide through by b. And if you don't understand why b divided by b cancels out, so obviously in this case it's going to be bh over b, because I said we need to divide through on both sides by b. If we were to look at this, b and b cancel out because it's like saying a number like 5 over 5 or 2 over 2. These are both equivalent to 1. So b divided by d leaves 1. So 1 times by h leaves us with our h. Hence, when we make h the subject, it's going to be a over b equal to h. Okay. Looking at question number 3, we have make m the subject of the formula. So we have m plus 7 is equal to t. Making m the subject of the formula, first we must look at our m and see what is being applied to our m. In this case, it's being added to 7, right? To reverse this and get m by itself, we need to minus 7 from both sides of our equation. So minusing 7 and minusing 7, we get m is equal to t minus 7. Okay, moving on now. This is rearranging with two-step operations, meaning there's a second step, just a building on from what we learned in the first slide. So y is equal to 4x plus 1. We need to make x the subject of this formula. So first we look at our x and see that it's being times by 4, then added to 1. In cases like this, we always deal with the addition slash subtraction, should I say. So we always deal with the addition or subtraction first, just for simplicity purposes. So we first minus 1 from both sides, because that is the opposite of what's being done to the x. So to reverse it, we minus 1, which gives us y minus 1 is equal to 4x. Then we can see that we can divide through by 4 to get x alone, and get y minus 1 over 4 is equal to x. Now, looking at question number 2, we have make p the subject of the formula q equals to 3p minus 7. Looking at our p here, first it's being times by 3 and then added to 7. Remember, we always deal with the addition or subtraction first. So we add 7 on both sides because that is the reverse. So q plus 7 is equal to 3p. Now our p is being times by 3. To reverse this, we divide through by 3 on both sides. So we get q plus 7 divided by 3 is equal to our p. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you're with me. Now we're going to move on. Rearranging with fractions, roots, and powers. So make x the subject Make x the subject when y is equal to 3x plus 2 over 4. So now, the way we do this is to get rid of the denominator in our equation, which is something we always look to do, we times through by the denominator. So times both sides by 4. Gives us 4y is equal to 3x plus 2. And it's a similar case here. When we times through by 4, this is going to cancel out and just give us times 1, because 4 over 4 is just 1. So then we look at our x now. We see that it's being times by 3, but also added to 2. We first deal with our addition, as I always say. So we have to minus 2 to reverse it and get 3x by itself. So 4y minus 2 is equal to 3x. Now we see our x is being times to 3. And to reverse this, we divide by 3 to get x by itself, which is 4y minus 2 over 3 is equal to our x. And as we can see, x is alone on one side of our equation. So number 2, t is equal to root 2x minus 5. In this case, we can see that our expression, including x, expression in this case is 2x minus 5. Our expression, including x, is being applied to by a square root function. Now, to reverse this, we apply the opposite to both sides, and the opposite of square root is obviously squared. So we square both sides to get rid of our square root, which gives us 2x minus 5. Now, looking at our x, we see it's being times by 2 and then minusing 5. We deal with our subtraction first and get t squared plus 5, which is the opposite, remember, because it's minus on one side, plus 5 on both sides to get rid of that. And we say is equal to 2x. Then we divide through both sides by 2 to get x alone on one side of its equation. So t squared plus 5 divided by 2 is equal to x. Hence, x equals t squared plus 5 over 2 is the formula when x is the subject. Moving on, n equals to m plus 1 over 2 squared. And that's all squared, by the way. So we can see that the expression including m is being squared. To reverse this, we apply the square root function to both sides. So root n is equal to m plus 1 over 2. Now, as I mentioned previously, we need to get rid of our denominator, and the way we do this is timesing through by our denominator. So we times 2 on both sides of our equation, and we get 2 root n is equal to m plus 1. Now, m is being added to 1. To reverse this, we minus 1 from both sides to get 2 root n minus 1 is equal to our m. That is our formula. Moving on, we're rearranging when the subject appears more than once. So, in this case, we have t equals m plus 1 and over 2m minus 5. So in this case, when we have two expressions involving m, when one is being divided by the other in the form of a fraction, we times through by the denominator to get rid of the fraction in our equation. So we're going to get t times by 2m minus 5 equals to m plus 1. Now, the next part of this question is going to really test our knowledge of expanding and factorizing. So if you're feeling a bit shaky on this topic and are a bit confused, I strongly advise you, to go back to my previous videos in the series and where we'll iron out all those difficulties and come back, and these questions will seem a lot more simpler to you. So now, expanding out, we have 2tm minus 5t is equal to m plus 1. Now, the next important step is to get all the terms involving m onto one side and all the terms not involving m onto the other side. So in this case, we're going to bring the m on this side and the minus 5t on that side. And we're going to do this all in one step, so be careful. So 2tm, we have to minus m from both sides because it's positive on this side. So minus m from both sides gives us minus m is equal to 1. And then to move the 5t on the other side, we plus 5t on both sides to reverse it. So 1 plus 5t. Now we can take out m as a common factor on the left-hand side. And then that leaves us with a bracket of 2t minus 1 equals to 1 plus 5t. Now we can see that our m is being times by the expression 2t minus 1. Now, to reverse this, we can divide both sides by 2t minus 1, leaving m alone on one side of the equation. And as I mentioned before, it does not matter whether m is on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, as long as it's alone and by itself, completely fine. That is when m becomes the subject of the formula. So, looking at the last question, this isn't when something appears more than once, but it was a question that I thought I'll just add just for extra practice. So, y equals to root c plus 4. We first deal with the addition because we're trying to make c the subject of the formula. Oh, I didn't even do number 2. Sorry guys, this is actually a second recording of this episode because the audio didn't record this first time, so just bear with me. So, making a the subject of this formula, what we can do is first get rid of the fraction, the denominator, so times through, so ba plus 4 is equal to 3a minus 1. Then timesing through, it gives us ba plus 4b is equal to 3a minus 1. Then we need to move all of our terms, including a, onto one side, and all of the terms not including a onto the other side. So we're going to get ba plus 3a on this side, so we minus 3a on both sides of the equation to get minus 3a, and then minus 1 minus 4b. Then taking a factor out of a, we get b minus 3 is equal to minus 1 minus 4b. Now dividing through by the expression b minus 3, we will leave a alone on one side of the equation. So a is equal to minus 1 minus 4b over b minus 3. And that is our formula when a is the subject. So moving on to the last question. As I mentioned before, that this question doesn't exactly show when the subject appears more than once. It's just a question that I wanted to bring into this. So first we need to make c the subject of the formula, and we deal with the addition / subtraction first, and in this case it's addition. So to get rid of this, we minus 4 from both sides to get y minus 4 is equal to root c. Then our c is being applied to by a square root function. We need to reverse this. We do this by applying the opposite to both sides, so we have to square both sides, and we get y minus 4 squared is equal to our c. And that is our final answer. Okay, that's going to conclude today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll catch you guys